Hello, welcome to Local Anaesthetic Podcast, your regular injection of mind-numbing local news. It's good to be back for episode 370, which, as a number, feels like it should just be some kind of milestone. It feels enormous, but it's not a milestone. But it is, but it isn't. We're not recognising it as such. Rob did say in the last episode 370 would be a listener story special, but he forgot. And so episode 300, so that has been delayed, and episode 300, like the post at the moment, and episode 371 will be a listener story special.
Yeah, I just want to pick up. It will be that is correct. I don't like the fact that the blame has been apportioned to me. You know, this is a joint venture, and I feel we should both be sharing that responsibility. But that hasn't happened. Yeah. So something to look forward to for the next episode, unless we forget again. Which we'll put it in a diary. We'll buy a diary, and then we'll put it in that.
Yeah. All right. So 371, and you're saying I'm jointly responsible for remembering this.
Yes.
If I heard
yes.
you correctly.
Yes, that is correct. Yes.
Okay. Is there any news?
I don't think so. No, I'm still conscious that I haven't posted, shared the link to the Facebook listener group on the main feed. So that's
your fault.
That is down to me. Yeah. I mean, the first one was joint responsibility. This one is solely down to me. I think that's it. I haven't seen any more news, but yeah. So we can just crack on. Is there anything from you, Alex? Is there any news that you'd like to make the listeners aware of?
No, I'm just happy that we have established that in this sort of running tally that although we were both jointly responsible for not remembering it was a listener special episode, but that you are responsible for forgetting to tell people about the List Story Forum, which makes you, on balance, to blame. Rob, let's get on. Let's get
good. I'm glad that's been made clear to the listeners. Let's get on with it. They're not here to try and they are not here to point the finger of blame, Alex. They are here to listen to quality local news stories.
Well, okay. On that, Rob. Here's a quality news story. Now, this is covered in lots of publications. Now, you may very well... You may very well be familiar with this story already because it's from the Metro, the version I'm covering. And I did look for the local news version if there is one, but couldn't find one. But just visiting... How does anyone... I mean, presumably Metro is doing enough to keep going. I know we keep talking about this, but to visit their website is like going into a psychedelic world of sort of torture. I mean, number one, their banner has multicoloured stripes all the way through it for reasons I'm not clear about. I don't know if it's meant to be celebrating Pride, but it doesn't look like it's to do with that. And over the O, it says 50 in really bad. It's really bad font. It's like, it looks like it's just been done in Word. Then it says news, not that you know it, but you know it. And then there's this narrow strip, very narrow. So only a third of this webpage is actually their website, and the rest of it is a huge advert for what looks like to be a Walt Disney World Resort, Florida. So I've just got Mickey Mouse everywhere and bubbles floating over the screen.
Yeah, it's very invasive.
Yeah, and now I'm being assaulted. Next to the story itself is an advert for a caterpillar cake at Ocado.
Right.
There's something called Rush Hour Crush. To the striking woman with shoulder-length hair wearing a red-pink top. To the slim man with a backpack who stopped and commented on my looks. Did we ever used to read these out, Rob?
No. Is it about? Are they back? Because I remember.
Rob, do you know what, Rob?
We talked about this very recently, but
I'm going to say it now. How, with your approval, new feature. Let's intermittently dip into the what's it called? Rush Hour Crush section, because I've not seen these. Let's just go through them before I get to my story.
Right.
Okay, and then we'll put on some romantic music, as always. To the striking woman with shoulder-length hair wearing a red-pink top and a denim miniskirt, you were taking a photo of the door to the Great Hall at Hampton Court Palace. I was about to offer to take a picture for you, but you had already gone inside. I apologise for having to turn the sound off in the AV display, but you said you'd only come in for a rest. You told me that you liked photographing doors. We both smiled when I saw you again. We both smiled when I saw you again, and I wish I'd asked to see your door pictures. I've never met a Doors fan like you, and I hope to meet you again. And that's from Palace Guy in black shirt. When he says Doors fan, does he mean Doors the musicians or Doors door? I think he means doors that open and close. I'm
concerned the door is a euphemism for something else, Alex.
I did wonder that.
Also, I always thought the Rush Hour Crush they were sort of close encounters on the underground.
Well, not anymore, Rob.
Because
people are all in masks.
Yeah, not just staff at stately homes perving on the paying patrons, but that's okay.
Okay, Rob. Okay, next Rush Hour Crush. To the brunette in the maroon dress on the Northern Line at 10:20 p.m. on Friday, we exchanged comforting smiles that seemed to linger for a happy eternity before both disembarking at Tooting Broadway. Again, I don't know if that's a euphemism. I wanted to ask if you were okay before you vanished into the crowd. That's from white shirt with black trim. If you were exchanging these comforting smiles, why would you need to stop and ask this stranger, which would be a bit pure, are you okay?
Yeah,
that's his jab line.
I thought. Yeah,
are you all right?
Surely there must be a better opening line than "Are you okay?" Not maybe can I buy you a coffee or something along those lines. It seems strange. It almost seems like he made her feel uncomfortable, and he felt that he needed to reassure her that he wasn't a weirdo that was just smiling at her.
Rob, I need to just tell you now, I don't know what to do because we've actually got a whole podcast. We've got a new podcast, which is this, because at the bottom, I thought there are about 6 I was just going to get through, but at the bottom there's a button that says load more crushes, and it goes on ad infinitum. There is a new podcast here. You do realise? Yeah,
I could see that. I could definitely see that.
Let me just do a few more then, but I feel like we're missing out. These are all gold. To the woman with gorgeous blue eyes and dark blonde stroke brown hair, with a crystal necklace on the 7:07 a.m. from Hilsea to Bedhampton. You look so stunning. We had a good laugh. I just wish I'd had the nerve to ask you out for a drink. And that's from Reciu. I noticed most of these are men. Okay, alright, here's another one. To Holly from Fulham, the petite brunette with the warm eyes at the bus stop off the Strand at 2:30 a.m. on Friday. We both got the N11 bus. Me by mistake. You wrote down instructions for me to get home. Is there something wrong with
but, sorry, who does that in this day and age? Surely. Look, let's just assume that alcohol's involved, okay? Then go from there.
You wrote down instructions for me to get home, but forgot to add your phone number. Maybe we could meet in Streatham for a drink and a natter. No, you don't want to meet anybody in Streatham. Full stop. It's from Ben with the backwards cap. So, we need to be clear here. A man called Ben wearing his cap backwards, a la Poochie from The Simpsons or somebody else from the 1990s.
Yeah.
Stopped Hully from Fulham, who he describes as a petite brunette. There's something about a lot of these descriptions of women which seem very objectifying and of a different age in some way, Rob. I don't know if I'm correct there.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
I think that's fair. I think what's happened here is she just took pity on you because you'd obviously got on the wrong bus. So why on earth would she then give you her phone number? She was only trying to help you get home. There was nothing else to it, mate. I'm sorry to say it.
Yeah. To the cute, foxy girl with beautiful brown eyes in the car park most days.
Sorry, what car park?
Your eyes are stunning. We smile at each other. Fancy going for tacos? That's from Wetsuit Guy, who I can only assume, Rob, is Gimp Man.
Yeah, so Alex, if you... Sorry. So I'm assuming this man isn't wearing a wetsuit while smiling at this woman in a random car park, because I think that would be quite unsettling.
Okay, and we'll just finish with this. To the beautiful young lady bus driver at Brixton Hill around 6 p.m. on Thursday. You looked hot. Fancy a slushie? That's
again, hopefully not a euphemism.
So Rob, I'm feeling, I know we don't normally discuss this stuff on air, but look, let's just go back a second, right? For any of our long-time listeners, this will tell you something about Rob and I's creative process. We originally envisioned Daft Talk to be a mishmash of different segments.
Correct.
It was never meant to be just about Yahoo Answers. I'm envisaging, Rob, a resurrection of Daft Talk, where we not only have the Yahoo Answers segment, but it would be from that other website.
Quora.
Yes. So it would just be shorter, where we could find humorous things from there. But that we would feature this kind of shit and other things that maybe listeners to suggest to us. So it would be a smorgasbord of a podcast. It would feel like that kind of, going to a buffet, there's a number of shitty dips, that kind of thing.
Right, yeah. Interesting, yeah. Maybe he's put it to the listenership. Maybe we actually need to see what people think.
We could call it Rob and Alex's buffet dinner.
I think we need to work on the name.
But it's
well, could we not keeping? I don't know, maybe hospital food, but that doesn't really make any sense. I'm just starting to think in the local anaesthetic.
No, I think we need to move away. I think we need to move away from that, Rob. Chiefly because if I were to go back and start this podcast again, I wouldn't choose to call it local anaesthetic because I think it doesn't give people a good idea of what the podcast is about. It was a poor branding decision. Yeah, I would have called it like Weird News, for example.
Well, I mean, that needs workshopping as well. Alex, look, I think we've been going for 15 minutes. We haven't actually covered any local news. And this is a conversation that to us may seem interesting, but to anyone listening, they may give no shit about whatsoever.
I think you'd be surprised, Rob. I think you'll be surprised. I think we'll get feedback on that, on just everything that's just happened here as being the best quality content we've put out in a while. Okay. Let's do the story from the Metro. This is from Famer Bakar, from Monday the 8th of July 2019, so going a while back now. Rescuers learned that the exotic bird they found was actually a seagull covered in curry.
No, I haven't heard about this. Wow, what an exceptional headline.
Now, I need to tell you, this seagull, who I'm watching a picture of a woman of it, she's headless, not because she's been decapitated, the picture cuts her off at her neck,
right.
And she's holding the seagull in one hand and holding its wing up with the other, and it is an orange. It is a Trumpian shade of orange. The seagull looks like Donald Trump.
Okay.
A bright orange bird who was found on the side of an A41 road near the motorway was spotted for its unusual look. After somebody called it in, folks at the Tiggy Winkles Wildlife Hospital in Aylesbury took the tropical-looking bird in, not knowing where it flew in from and assumed it was exotic. Rob, when I was younger, as in a child, there was a period of 4 years in a row where me and my parents and my sister, so my family, went to the same holiday. You couldn't call it a resort. I'll get into that in a second. In Devon. For 4 years in a row, every summer. And it was like this collection of cottages that and there was a games room and there was a lake nearby and there wasn't very much to do in the area, but there was this, it was weird place. And the same people would come every year. Yeah. So I remember there was this guy who was older than me who wore a Manchester United shirt and he would always be in the games room. And so you spent a lot of time. I did really enjoy being in that games room, Rob. It's also where the incident took place when my dad had to batter that fish to death by slamming its head against the picnic bench after it swallowed the hook. That's where that also took place. So, as you can tell, many fond memories.
Sure.
The reason why I'm mentioning this is that Tiggy Winkles Farm was a constant topic of conversation down there between me and the kids in the games room because everybody seemed to find it hilarious that there was this place called Tiggy Winkles Farm. They took in hedgehogs, basically, Rob.
I know it well because I think Tiggy Winkles is quite well known, I believe, for rescuing wayward hedgehogs. So what was funny about it? Just the names.
Yeah, like when you're kids and you find things funny now that you look back and go, it wasn't really funny. So people would sort of, a constant refrain would be saying this Tiggy Winkles Farm, but in a funny voice. It's not that funny now, Rob.
No. I'm guessing you had to be there, Alex.
Yeah. But anyway, a quick wash later, they realised it was just a seagull covered in curry and turmeric. Fittingly, they called him Vinny after a vindaloo. And it's not the first time the incident has happened, Rob, as another seagull fell into a vat of chicken tikka masala in 2016 where else? Wales. You remember the Joker?
Right. Yeah. Of course.
You remember the Joker in the in the original Batman film with Michael Keaton, Tim Burton's Batman, and you remember Jack Nicholson as the Joker fell into that vat of acid that.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I can imagine that it probably got in through an open window, and seagulls are gannets. I mean, I know gannet is a different type of bird, but they will eat anything, so it's understandable that a seagull might have inadvertently covered itself in a curry sauce.
I'm going to call it now, Rob. I've just visited this story. Greedy seagull had an incident with some curry. About that one in 2016. We covered that at the time. We bloody covered this story.
Yeah, I think we did. I was going to ask. I seem to remember that.
Yeah. So at least if your late night benders end covered in last night's curry, then don't worry, you're not the only one. Rescuers found that Vinny had somehow managed to dip into a curry and get it all over his white feathers. But thankfully, the curious seagull wasn't harmed or injured, just temporarily unable to fly. To me, Rob, I don't know. I'm thinking. Got a bird, curry, covered in curry sauce. They missed an opportunity here, Rob, which is put it in the oven and you got yourself a nice evening meal, no?
I mean, undoubtedly, Alex, that's what happened to the seagull in Wales. I mean, some just, one day it was in an enclosure and the next day it just disappeared. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, who's to say that in some parts of the world that curried seagull isn't a delicacy?
Well, exactly. I should just say, for anybody who's interested and wants to visit that story on the Metro, that the two stories they're highlighting immediately underneath it, under the caption More, the two headlines are, number one, Big Cats UK, what species are there and where have they been spotted? And the second, More, is why are cats scared of cucumbers?
Right.
Fill your boots. Okay. This is a great story, Rob. Now, I am dipping in now to the Telegraph.
Okay.
God. It's by Max Stevens. Don't know. Yeah, you probably would have a Max working for the Telegraph, to be fair. It's from the 1st of September, 2022. It's published, Rob, at 3:17 p.m. This is extraordinary, Rob, because it's just having this headline with the picture. Phone mast disguised as giant tree likened to gigantic toilet brush by angry residents.
Brilliant. Okay. Yeah, sure.
Now, I am looking at a field with a tractor on it. There's a row of sort of very large trees off to the left, Rob. And in the middle of this field is a giant telephone mast that has indeed been disguised as some sort of rudimentary tree. And it looks like a gigantic lavatory brush. Shall I
Google the story, Alex?
I would like that. Phone mast disguised as giant tree, and then you could just put in toilet brush. I feel you need to see it. I admire what they're trying to do, but it just looks wank.
Okay, I've got it here. Yes, it's just loading the story. I mean, I appreciate the fact they are trying to ensure that the telephone mast blends in with its surroundings, but I mean, yeah, you're absolutely right. It looks shit, Alex. It really looks shit.
Do you know what?
It doesn't look anything like the trees to the left hand side of it,
mate. Do you know what? It reminds me. This is going to give North Korea ideas as a good way of hiding rockets.
What? Just stick a load of branches on it.
Yeah, it does. It looks like it looks like a shitty attempt by North Korea to hide a rocket. It's what it looks like. Anyway, council officers granted planning permission last June for the 25-metre high mast to be built near Dundas Home Farm in South Queensferry, despite more than 20 official complaints from angry locals. Critics say attempts to hide the structure with greenery has backfired, as it stands more than double the height of the adjacent trees and resembles, in quotes, God's lavy brush. According to one resident. No need for blasphemy.
No.
Complaints lodged against Edinburgh Council reveal locals feared the mast would have a detrimental impact on the 200-year-old Dundas Castle, which lies a 20-minute walk away. One resident said, "Oh dear, it definitely looks nothing like a tree and very much like a gigantic toilet brush," while another commented, "I think the mast alone would have looked better," and I tend to agree with them.
Sorry, can I just ask, Alex, how is it going to affect the castle that's 20 minutes walk away?
Rob. Are you accusing these people of NIMBYism? Is that what you're doing? Are you one of these people? Is that what you're doing here?
Alex, I think you mentioned this is South Queensferry, so this is obviously Scotland, so that's exactly what I'm accusing them of.
Somebody else said they could put baubles on it for Christmas, and that is a very good idea.
I like that. I like that a lot.
One objection lodged against the council read, this application is pretty much identical to the application that was rejected in 2020 by the planning authority, other than trying to discuss this mast structure as an extremely tall tree that would seem out of place in the area. It would appear that the height of this mast is considerably taller than existing surrounding trees and would be observed from local properties within the listed area, including the livery and properties within the listed Dundas Home Farm. This would have, Rob, and I hope you feel ashamed of what you were saying earlier now, a substantial adverse impact on the surrounding area, Rob. There'd be an impact on wildlife. There'd be an impact on bat activity observed in the barn 40 metres from the proposed site. Do you want to interfere, Rob, with bat activity in the barn 40 years from the site? Is that 40 metres, from the site? Is that what you want to do? Are you anti-bat activity? Because if you are, everything that's wrong with this country. Fucking commie bastards.
Yeah, and you're right, Alex. I mean, it's difficult to say this, but I have never really considered the humble bat in any context, really. And the erection of a telephone mast will undoubtedly cause them to fly into it. I don't know. /care.
Rob, bats are essential for our fragile ecosystem. Kill one bat, you might as well kill the planet. Another objection said the attempt to blend the structure. No, it's bats. Another objection said bees. But I'll tell you something that a lot of people don't know. Bees are totally redundant.
Right.
When's the last time you bought honey?
Well, for me, Alex, I am actually a big fan of honey. It has to be acacia. I think I've pronounced that correctly. I hope I have. I can never quite justify buying manuka, but if the situation presents itself, then I might consider it.
Yeah. Have you ever noticed that good? This is again a tangent. Have you ever noticed, Rob, that good quality honey? I'm talking about that real manuka smells of urine. A bit.
No, Alex, that's just the honey you're being sold. You need to stop buying it off that guy in the park. Yeah,
you're right. Another objection said the attempt to blend the structure with nearby trees was rendered useless by the flashing light on top of the mast.
Oh, right, so they are preparing for Christmas.
Okay, Rob, have you got some stories for us or any tangents like I went off on about people eyeing each other up on the underground?
No, I'm just going to get straight into the news. So I've got two short stories and a slightly more meaty story. The first short story
a cock and ball,
from...
the classic cock and balls then.
Exactly, yeah. So these are the balls, then we move on to the phallus. So this is from the No, it's not. It's from the Norwich Evening News from the 1st of August by Cassie Cooper Fisk. I've had this knocking around for a while. It's in a very short story, but I did enjoy it. The headline is Injured Tortoise Removed from Norwich Train Line After Causing Delays.
I think I might have heard... No, I didn't, but I was hearing somebody talk about a tortoise on the radio for different reasons. Yeah.
Okay, right, fair enough. An injured tortoise caused severe delays and cancellations to Norwich and Stansted train services after it crawled onto the line this afternoon. The large reptile made its way onto the track at Harling Road in Larling? Yeah, Larling, near Thetford at 1:20 p.m. and refused to budge. It caused Stansted to Norwich services to be started at Cambridge and caused severe delays to a number of services departing and arriving at Norwich Station for about an hour.
Okay, all right, hang on a minute. Rob. Am I wrong to suggest that... Okay, you wouldn't stop a train and cause massive disruptions to services if there was a grasshopper on the track? Which is also a living, breathing thing. So where do we draw the line, and do the rail companies need some sort of handbook? Like elephant, we have to stop because it's dangerous. Cat, we've decided that we like cats and those are the creatures that we like, so we're going to stop because nobody wants to hurt a poor pussycat. Is tortoise in the same bracket as that? Fox, no, just keep going, plough along, kill it. Do you see? Who made the decision? No, am I not understanding?
I don't think you're looking at this in the right way. You have to think about the ability of animals to move. Now, if a train was coming at a cat, that cat, I think, would instinctively move out of the way. No, but fortunately, with this particular tortoise, well, with any tortoise, I would suggest they don't have the ability to move that quickly.
No, and were trains disrupted because of safety concerns that the tortoise could somehow send the train off the track, or was it to spare the life of the tortoise? Because if it was the latter, it just seems very hypocritical. We're perfectly prepared to butcher animals to have lunch. So what's the problem with butchering a tortoise to get to somewhere quickly?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, it doesn't go into that much detail.
Right.
It doesn't say that they were prepared to slaughter it, but as a result, it might damage the train. I think it probably would damage the train. I mean, it's got obviously a tortoise has a hard shell, which could cause damage to the underside of the train.
No, hang on. You're into trains, right? You're a bit of a train nerd, let's say, and I mean that in the nicest possible way. I do mean that in a nice way. But you are very knowledgeable. Would a tortoise shell? I mean, you think about the power and the strength of a train, steel, Rob, coming at you at that speed. I don't think the tortoise would stand a chance. It wouldn't make a dent, would it?
Well, I think it might have an impact. I mean, if hitting anything about 100 miles an hour, it's going to do some sort of damage.
Okay.
I mean, it was literally, it was between the rails. I mean, I did enjoy the statement from Greater Anglia that said that we are sorry for the destruction caused to customers between Norwich and Cambridge this afternoon. This was due to a very large injured tortoise on the line near Harling Road. Network Rail attended and helped the animal. So it's nice to know that they care, Alex. I mean, there's literally no detail about where this tortoise had come from, because as far as I know, the tortoise isn't a native to Norfolk, but they've, it's obviously been repatriated to wherever it came from in the first place. That's the end of the story, by the way.
Okay, that's one ball out the way. Okay.
Yeah. So the second ball is from the Manchester Evening News, from the 31st of August by Sophie Norris. And the headline is, man splashes cash on huge billboard advert for Sidekick in Manchester with no contact details.
Did you say for a sidekick?
For Sidekick. Sidekick, like a medium.
I thought you said a sidekick. I need a sidekick. I mean, that'd be great, wouldn't it? If you could, I want a sidekick in life, and I go to a sort of company and they provide me with a sidekick. I mean, obviously, we have each other as sidekick. There's something, I don't know, something about sidekick which feels a bit, though, like one's better than the other. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like sidekick Simon to Alan Partridge. Yeah,
exactly. Robin is, no one wants Robin to turn up to an emergency. You want Batman. Robin is there to help out, maybe serve the drinks, that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, a desperate bloke in need of a clairvoyant has splashed out on a giant billboard in Manchester, but included no contact details, claiming a genuine medium will know where to apply.
Okay.
He's right, Alex.
He is, but I fear he may have wasted his money.
Yeah, it might be true. The mystery man contacted signage company Manda Media and forked out an unspecified amount for the advert to go live near a busy commuter route on August the 18th. It reads, "Psychic wanted, you know where to apply," as they claim a real medium would know exactly what they mean and how to contact them.
Is this somebody doing this to be humorous, or do they genuinely want it?
I mean, unfortunately, Alex, we're not going to know. I'd like to think it was someone who was being absolutely genuine, maybe needed to contact to see his family relative, but unfortunately, we just
ask them
know
where they left. Do you think that happens, that people get in contact with psychics to contact a deceased relative to tell them where something is that they can't find?
I need to ask Deborah where the keys to the shed are. That kind of thing. Is that what you're thinking about? Yeah,
exactly like that. Thank you, Rob.
So, puzzled passers-by on Fairfield Street said they've been scratching their heads at the cryptic ad and why their services are needed. Stephen Baxter from Manda Media said, "We were contacted by an individual to place this advert seeking a psychic. Initially, we thought it was a joke, but the individual explained that they were deeply serious and wanted to find a genuine psychic. They felt the best way to do that was to put a psychic wanted advert with no contact details, because a good psychic would know when, where, and how to contact them." It wasn't clear why they needed a psychic. Maybe they'd been swindled by a fake psychic in the past, or perhaps they wanted clarity on their future. We just don't know. But we are seriously invested in this experiment, and it would be incredible to know if it actually works. So that's nice now, Alex.
Yes. So you now have a meat. You said a meaty phallus for us, I think.
That's right. So we now move on to the main shaft, if you will, of the trilogy, I suppose. So this is from the Daily Record. It's by Alice Peacock, who is a news reporter, Kit Vickery, and Hannah Mackenzie Wood, actually, I should say. So there's the three reporters we deem necessary to cover the story. God knows why. It's from the 30th of August, and the headline is Jet 2 flight diverted after OAP passenger attacks staff over no free champagne.
Okay.
Because I mean, I haven't travelled by Jet 2, Alex, but I can hazard a guess that they don't offer free champagne.
Champagne as standard.
Yeah, basically. So footage of a violent OAP who caused the Jet 2 flight to be diverted after lashing out at cabin crew have been shared online. In clips posted to TikTok, the grey-haired woman becomes increasingly angry with fellow passengers, saying her frustration started after her request for free champagne was denied by staff.
Well, it would
become angry. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Jet 2, I don't have any. Where are they in the pantheon? Might be the wrong word, but of airlines. Like in terms of like Ryanair, EasyJet, where are we talking? Are they below those?
No, I think I would place Jet 2 above EasyJet, Ryanair, definitely. I think we're talking definitely below. I'm trying to think like a mid-tier airline that's still in operation, because Thomas Cook and Majestic don't exist. Oh, Majestic don't exist anymore. Monarch, that's what I was thinking of. Monarch don't exist anyway. They've gone into liquidation.
Aeroflot?
That's the airline. Aeroflot, I don't even know. Do they exist still? But
what a business to be in at the moment, the airline industry. My God.
Yeah. We're talking, I think, mid-tier domestic, I would say. That's what we're looking at here.
Right.
So the situation continued to escalate on the flight from Manchester Airport to Rhodes with the pensioner hitting an employee twice. Her behaviour led to the plane being diverted to Munich, where the disruptive woman, believed to be in her 70s, was handed over to police. Passengers on board the flight last Wednesday, August 26, claimed that after the woman was declined free champagne, she ordered a gin and tonic instead. However, the drink was taken off her by crew members, and she continued to be aggressive towards them. So, a male employee attempted to calm her down, but then had to try and restrain her after she violently flailed her arms and legs around. He went to sit next to her before leaping to his feet as the woman lashed out, hitting him across the head. The woman then smacked her head on the overhead locker before reaching out and smacking the man across the face twice.
I'm going to have to watch this.
Yeah. Another member of the crew came in to restrain the woman, who fell back into her seat before the clip ended.
Let me see if I can find it.
So I just, if you can keep looking, I'm going to continue with the story. They said a woman on the flight repeatedly asked the flight attendants for free champagne. The flight attendant told the woman that wasn't part of the service, and she bought a gin and tonic in the end. At this point, the woman repeatedly became aggressive, which prompted the flight attendant to remove her drink. The witness said that she started to swear and had violent outbursts. Alex, it does escalate. Hang on,
I'm just watching a bit of this now. Yes,
brilliant.
I can see it on the Jet. So yes, she is flailing her arms around. There's a guy sat next to her trying to calm her down. She is all over the place. Yes, she does. She stands up, hits her head. Yes, she does slap him repeatedly across the face. Everything you've just described, I'm seeing, and there are now two men around her trying to sit her down and calm her down. Yes, she's pissed, Rob.
Yeah, absolutely. At one point, apparently, she got up and tried to open the cabin door mid-flight before two male... A classic move, Alex, a classic move.
Yeah.
And two passengers had to hold her down while she punched other people. They added she urinated over 3 seats and repeatedly had bursts. Yeah, so it really escalates quite quickly. So she urinated over 3 seats and repeatedly had bursts of violent episodes until we had to make an emergency landing in Munich.
Until we had to open the door and throw her out.
Yeah, Alex, upon arriving in Munich, she was escorted off the plane by around 9 police officers.
Now, hang on a minute. This woman is English, right?
Yes.
But we handed her over to the Germans. So is that where she is now, in some sort of ex sort of Gestapo interrogation chamber? Ex.
Yeah, she's in an old Stasi police station in East Germany, and will be there, unfortunately, until the end of time. There's no. I don't think actually doesn't mention what happened after that. No, the plane took off 2 hours later and continued on its route to Rhodes, and apparently she's still detained in Germany.
Well, as everybody knows, Rob, Hitler only had one ball, but there we really did get both full balls from you and a cock, as promised, of stories, and so we appreciate your time and efforts.
Thank you.
Okay, Rob, before we get on to our listener story of the week, of course, this should have been an episode full of listener stories, but somebody forgot. We now, Rob...
That person, by the way, we don't know who it is. We can own, but it doesn't really matter, to be honest, if we think about it.
It doesn't really bookend the podcast because we've still got the listener story to come up, but it bookends it in a way because we started, Rob, with love and we end with love.
Great.
Rob, this is from a publication we haven't featured before. It's from the entrepreneur.com, which obviously is a website I would frequently visit, sort of daily.
Of course, Alex, with all your, with all your side hustles.
Yeah, it's by Entrepreneur SS. the journalist, Rob,
SS, right?
No, the journalist is Entrepreneur en Español. May the 3rd, 2022. This article was translated from the Spanish edition of the newspaper, Rob, using AI technologies. Errors may exist due to this process. Opinions expressed by entrepreneur contributors are their own. I do want to make that clear.
Okay.
Right. Headline. The man who married a hologram in Japan can no longer communicate, Rob, with his virtual wife. Now, in a minute, I'm going to ask you to look up this story so you can see for yourself. So, Rob, you're going to learn something today. Fictosexuality is a term used to describe those people who are sexually attracted to fictional characters, and in Japan, little by little, it becomes a trend to the extent that there are companies that develop technology to offer users holographic couples. Akihiko Kondo took his love for a fictional character one step further by holding a getting married ceremony with Hatsune Miku, a virtual singer who has starred in several video games and has even accompanied Lady Gaga on world tours, Rob. The ceremony took place in 2019 after the man was able to communicate with the hologram via Gatebox, a company that develops devices to holographically show characters that do not exist. At the time, Akihiko and Katsune monopolised the headlines of the newspapers and the media, and now they've done it again because support for the Gatebox software that allowed the interaction of the man with his virtual wife is no longer available, Rob, and for the same reason, he can no longer communicate with her. According to the Japanese newspaper, the Mainichi, Kondo says that his relationship with the hologram... Okay, before we get onto that, you need to look this up. So put in man who married...
I have done that, Alex. I actually have this CNN story that I've got here.
Okay, could you describe for the list? Because in my one, there's a hologram next to him, which is basically looks a bit like a sort of an electric kettle, but it's transparent, and inside is a sort of shimmering hologram. But he's also holding a sort of what looks like some sort of stuffed toy of her himself, which I believe is the thing he's actually married to.
Yeah. So I've got both of those where he's walking down the aisle holding that soft toy representation. But it seems like to me, so if you can imagine, it's sort of like a cylindrical box, and in the middle there's this hologram, which she looks. I mean, it's about, I would say, 5 inches tall, and it's kind of like an anime figure. Yeah, maybe bigger than that. Well, the actual figure is about, I would say, about 5 inches. It's an anime figure. Alex, what world are we living in where this is a thing?
Well, hang on a minute, Rob. According to the Japanese newspaper, the Mainichi, Kondo says its relationship with the hologram helped him overcome a deep depression caused by work and fear of social rejection. Faced with the inability to continue communicating with her, the man has said, "My love for Miku has not changed. I held the wedding ceremony because I thought that I could be with her forever. Wherever he wants her to go, wherever he goes, he's accompanied by a life-size model of Hatsune Miku, and he hopes to be able to communicate with her in some way in the near future." But that thing he's holding is the life-size model, as in that is the size that she is, the size of a, I can only describe it as a small child.
Because in Japan it's quite common to have the character pillows, sort of full length like anime pillows that
I did not know that. No.
lonely men can hug at night. Not in a sexual way. It's purely for comfort. I thought he had something like that made.
Right. But Rob, you poo-pooed it earlier, but although the relationship between Ahiko and Hatsune Miku seems strange, we could see them more frequently thanks to the fast-paced development of the metaverse and digital environments. In some countries, fictional sexuality is common. An entire content generation industry involves around it. As long as those relationships depend on hardware and software that can become obsolete, Rob, or depend on upgrades, however, they might remain short-lived.
Alex, I don't want to imagine this man sitting naked in his house wearing nothing but a VR headset masturbating, and inevitably that's where this is going to end.
Rob, but you are just making his love here into a sexual thing. He genuinely loves this hologram thing.
Right, sure.
Do you know what? In years to come, Rob, when this is in years to come, when people are literally having relationships with non-existent entities via the metaverse, somebody's going to trawl back through our back catalogue and they're going to take what I said there where I described his love interest as a holographic thing, and I'll be pilloried. And I apologise because I didn't know what term to use because I'm not from the future.
But I think that your awareness of that speaks volumes. But also, I personally feel that you deserve to be cancelled. On several occasions prior to this.
All right, Rob, it's that time for our listener story of the week. I understand it's a short one, but that's fine, Rob, because sometimes short and sweet are short and sweet.
Yeah, absolutely, Alex. Now, this is from Face the Strange. I'm delighted that he's been back in contact.
Yes. I hadn't forgotten about Face the Strange by any means, but it has been a long time since we've heard from him. I hope he is okay and doing well.
He seems to be. Yeah, he seems to be doing very well. And I still occasionally dip into his Facebook page just to see what his latest creations are, and I'd encourage others to do the same. He has recently joined the listener forum, which I'm delighted by.
I'll tell you what, the next step for you, Face the Strange, you might have done it already, I don't know, is to join the Patreon, which I will talk about at the end of this episode. But Rob, let us hear from Face the Strange, because anything that comes from Face the Strange, I mean, it's normally quite profound.
Right. I mean, that really builds up this story, and I don't want to let people down. But it's from the Eastern Daily Press, from the 30th of August, by Emily Thompson. More than 100 fish killed after washing up liquid poured into fountain.
Now that is my kind of story. Accidental animal deaths really tickle my funny bone. I didn't think that doing this would cause this, but it's actually caused the death.
Alex,
of a lot of fish.
It wasn't accidental.
Oh, right. Okay. Well,
right.
Do you remember that story? One of my favourite ever stories, Rob, that we had was, I think it was in the early days of this podcast, about that group of youths who broke into a bee sanctuary in Catford and drowned the bees.
Of course, remember that, Alex.
Because it was how would you not? Such a waste.
It's petty.
It is. I mean, I did say earlier that bees don't actually serve any useful function in the ecosystem, and I stand by that. Because we're in an age,
Alex,
Rob, where that's my truth. Bees don't serve any useful function.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot about alternative facts. Yes, of course. In a world where bats matter but bees don't. I mean, I personally think that all bats can fuck off, and I'm willing to put that on record.
But Rob, no bat, no Batman, no Batman, no Joker. No Joker and no Batman. You don't get the first Batman and Joker film where Jack Nicholson falls into the vat of acid, and I couldn't have made that comment earlier about the seagull who fell into the vat of curry being like the Joker who fell into that, and that was interesting commentary, and that would have really dulled this podcast. So actually, you remove bats, this podcast becomes less interesting. We lose listenership. We go under. The business fails. Is that what you want, Rob?
So vandals killed more than 100 fish after pouring several bottles of washing up liquid into a fountain in West Norfolk.
Now, did they know it would kill them?
Of course they did. Alex, if you're going to pour several bottles of washing up liquid into a fountain, what do you think is going to happen? I mean, obviously it's going to bubble up, but if there's fish in there, surely you know what the consequences are going to be.
To get serious for a second, Rob, and I mean this, one of the things that really concerns me at the moment, and I feel like you're seeing it more and more, is that people are not caring anymore. And it's understandable because when life is becoming so shit and so anxiety provoking, but also I think a lot of this comes from the top down. Society can often be a reflection of what you have at the top. If your figurehead is somebody who cheats and lies and does whatever the fuck they want, it sends a message out that there's really nothing worth caring about anymore. And there's a lack of care, whether it be people littering, whether it be people not caring about their jobs. I hear this repeatedly about young people just not turning up for their jobs or not caring about them. What future do they have to look forward to? Let's kill some fish with washing up liquid. What difference does it make?
So the incident happened over the bank holiday weekend in Hunstanton. How am I supposed to respond to that?
Well, I don't know. Did you find it interesting, thought-provoking, or not?
People, look, I completely agree with what you're saying. We are the raison d'etre of this podcast is trying to lift people's spirits.
Is it?
Yeah, we
could have agreed that before. We could have agreed that 12 years ago. I didn't know that. Sorry.
Well, we should have. Yeah, we should have discussed that whilst apparently disregarding the name. But look, Alex, people are here to be informed, to be entertained.
I remind you, Rob, that our pilot episode featured a story about dog shit littering an alleyway, which wasn't, it was quite depressing in many ways. I thought.
Alex, we're covering a story now about fish being killed in a pond. Look, okay, it's not lighthearted, it's not entertaining, but they're here now. No, you get what you're given. Which unfortunately is very much the Tory Party's attitude.
We started off about a seagull covered in curry, and now we've got some fish washing up liquid. I wouldn't want to eat that. That wouldn't taste that nice, I don't think.
Well, the good thing about that, this is, unfortunately the fish were dead, but at least they'd be easy to clean. So
right, yeah.
So the incident happened over the bank holiday weekend in Hunstanton. The fountain in the Esplanade Gardens is managed by the West Norfolk Borough Council, which has reported it to the police. Now the council is hoping to find those responsible. In a tweet, a council spokesman wrote, "Our open space team would like to thank the Friends of the Esplanade Gardens and tourists from Essex who helped them clear out the pond and remove the dead fish on Sunday." Just imagine, Alex, if you're visiting Norfolk for a nice bank holiday weekend, and part of that is spent moving dead fish from a fountain.
Or seeing somebody moving dead fish from the fountain.
Yeah.
So hang on a minute. What fish were they? They koi carp?
Doesn't say.
How big So were they little fish or big fish?
No idea. Alex, there's only 2 more sentences. By the way, can I just make a small observation to Emily Thompson? You obviously haven't proofread this because in one sentence, pond is spelt as pong, but that's fine. Just to finish off, the fish has been placed in the fountain by members of the community over many years. The pond has now been refilled, but the fountain has not yet been turned back on, in memory of the fish.
So, Rob, are you telling me that there was a fountain there and over the years residents would donate fish into the water?
Apparently so, yeah. They've just been dropping fish into it, yeah.
Right, so that's the big society in action. Everybody pools together, pardon the pun, and contributes a fish. But then over time, I assume they were used, decide, no, we don't want these fish. They're stupid fish, and we're going to kill them with washing up liquid. And
that seems to be the long and short of it. Yeah. Alex, look, the West Norfolk Borough Council has probably had their budget slashed. They can't afford to buy frivolous fish for fountains.
Frivolous fish is a very Boris Johnson phrase, Rob. It really is. I sense something fishy about this whole story, Rob, to be honest with you. On that extraordinary, clever, witty pun. Is it pun? Yes, it's a pun. We bring this episode of Local Anesthetic to a close. We can be found on our website. Now, look, don't switch off now, because sometimes I'm sure people do, because they know I'm just going to ramble about where we can be found and then say goodbye. But don't switch off, because if you are not yet a member of Patreon, Patreon, for those who don't know, is a sort of service where podcasters or providers like Rob and I can put sort of extra content on there and have a membership behind us. It's really to help support podcast creators, which Rob and I do. We do this in our spare time. We get basically nothing for it, and it's really helpful to cover our running costs, which we do have, if we can have people. So in the past we did donations, but then we felt a bit bad asking people to donate things. But so we're now on Patreon. It's patreon.com/LAPodcast extra, and we have a whole second podcast going there, which is called Local Anaesthetic Podcast, an extra jab. And in that podcast, we're a bit more free to say a bit more things we might not say on these podcasts. Rob, cover a few more stories we might not normally cover. We love doing it. They're brilliant. There are already, how many episodes now? They're 30, aren't there? 30 episodes of, yes.
I think so, yeah.
30 episodes of Local Anaesthetic Podcast Extra. So if you sign up on Patreon, you get access to that whole back catalogue immediately, and you will get 2 episodes every month of Local Anaesthetic Podcast and Extra Jab that drop into your inbox. And Rob, just to let you know, because I know you like to know what's coming up, and of course we release a teaser every week as well now, don't we, so people can know. But Rob,
we do indeed, yes.
One of the things I cannot wait to cover is how to obliterate a horse with explosives, which apparently is a thing which needs to be done from time to time, and I cannot wait to cover it with you. So that's what I've got coming up on Local Anaesthetic Podcast. And Extra, yes, you look bemused, Rob, but you won't be. You won't be, and you will appreciate, because it's something that everybody should know. How do you obliterate a horse with explosives? Important skill.
Is it?
I think they teach you now in the Scouts.
Okay.
Go to Patreon, become a member, become a local anaesthesiac, I think we were calling them at once, but again, that didn't take.
No.
Thank you for listening, everybody. Enjoyed your company as always. God bless.
And keep it local.